My humble students, good morning again. A lot of people the mics are muted.
Good morning, Prof.
Good
Again.
morning.
Morning, how are you?
Morning.
Good morning.
Can we have more than 5 minutes just to say your name and your background quickly, or country name, background. Don't tell me stories about I'm married, I'm not married. That's not my issue. And just introduce yourself. What are you doing? I mean, so that we get to know each other. Like myself, okay, I can start with myself. My name is Professor Mashauri. I'm a civil engineer, but I've done law. I was forced to do law as an option for 2 years, a long time ago. And I've done a lot of short courses on international water and environmental law. And it's very much of my interest, though I'm not a lawyer. And we are not going to be lawyers after this meeting anyway. So, and I've been teaching. I was teaching at NAST for 7 years. I only left there 2017. Then I went to UNAM. I was there for 5 years. I just retired end of December 2022. So now, as you see me here, I'm just sitting in my house in Tanzania, in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. That's like 4,000 kilometers from Windhoek. Here it's very humid and wet. For those coming from South Africa, it will be something like Cape Town, maybe, yeah, or Durban. No, Durban maybe, because it's a little bit wet. Humidity is very high, and it can be very hot, like Beira or Durban, or yeah. So anyway, I'm enjoying it. For the last 4 months, I've been enjoying it. So I'm trying to get used to it. Okay, who is the next strong person? Just introduce yourself. Everybody's shy.
Okay, good morning, colleagues. Good morning, Prof. Mashauri. My name is Tafila. I'm from Botswana, and my background is in the geoscience field, where my BSc was in applied geophysics and my MSc on environmental science with a specialty in geospatial science. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, Emmanuel. What
Good
did you
morning,
say?
everyone. My name is Emanuela Lima. I'm from Angola. I'm civil engineer. My master was in environmental technology and resource management, but my PhD is focused more for continuous supply water our tap in-house. My interest is for transient hydraulic distributions in urban system.
Okay.
Good
Mr.
morning,
Jim.
Prof.
Morning.
Sorry,
Who is going now?
Oh, sorry, I thought I'd just coordinate from here. Catherine, go ahead, please.
Oh, okay, thank you. My name is Catherine. I'm from Botswana. I did my BSc in soil and water conservation engineering and my master's in integrated water resources management and specialized in hydrology from the University of Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. So I have a bit of, yeah, I have I've been to Tanzania and stayed a bit in Dar es Salaam. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Katambo, next.
Morning, Prof, and morning, everyone. Yeah, my name is Jimmy Katambo. I am from Zambia. My first degree is a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics, and my master's is a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science. And now I'm doing a PhD in informatics at NAST. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maria, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Maria Nelago Kanyama. I'm from Namibia. I did a Bachelor of Engineering in Electronics and Telecommunications. and a Master's of Science in Electronics and Computer Engineering, and I'm currently doing a PhD in Computer Science at NAST.
Welcome, Kanyama.
Mr. Chiamba, go ahead.
Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, Professor. My name is Chiamba Canivet. I'm from Angola. I'm a civil engineer. Now I'm doing a PhD in engineering in water and wastewater and applied technology for digitalization and digital twin for water supply.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chiamba. Mr. Mauricio, introduce yourself.
Bon dia, professor. Good morning,
Morning.
teacher. Good morning, colleagues. I'm Mauricio Clement. I'm from Angola. I'm environmental engineer. In my master, I did the environmental and territorial planning at the Coimbra University, Portugal. And now I'm doing my PhD in modeling nitrogen and phosphorus concentration levels in Cuba Okavango River. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Hitila, please introduce yourself. Okay, Offense, please introduce yourself if you're ready.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Offense Moseki. I'm from Botswana as well. I have Bachelor's of Science in Crop Science and Production and Master's in Natural Resources Management. I'm currently a PhD student at NAST doing Natural Resources Sciences. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Offense. Petros, Mr. Petros, please go ahead. Okay, I'm not sure if they are just or they stepped out. Maybe I would hand the floor to you, Prof, to begin your lecture. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, sorry, Prof. My apologies. Yes, my name is Petrus Paulus, and yeah, I think we knew each other from the other world during my IWRM, and it's a pleasure to meet you again, Prof, and looking forward to receive more from you today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I remember some of you. We have met in different capacities, either at NAST or at JEDS. I'm not sure if Madam Kanyama, were you doing your masters at JEDS?
Sorry, Prof.
Were you doing your masters at JEDS?
No, I did my master's at UNAM, Jose.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I mean at Jose dos Santos.
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. I think we met there then. Okay.
Yeah, with Dr. Nyerenda.
Yeah, Ernest Nyerenda. What's the name?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yes.
time. Yes, yes. Okay, then we meet again. Anyway, sorry. It's okay. We have met now, people. I'm not sure everybody introduces himself or herself, but anyway, don't worry. We shall meet maybe physically. I'm supposed to be there next week. So while going back to Ngodiva, I'll pass by if everything goes well. You have got a nice building. So I love when I come to window time, I need to visit the building, even if I have nothing to do with it. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, thank you very much. And let's try to go to the task of today. Let me try to share the slides if I can do it. I hope so. I think this is the one. Let's see if it goes. Working out a few seconds. Okay, do you see anything there?
Yes, Prof.
For me, it's very small. I don't know. Okay, let's see what I can do. Just a moment. I think I'll do. Stop sharing. Okay, let me go back. Okay, I hope you see, you can see at least the first slide.
Yes, Prof.
Just written integrity, accountability in water, in sanitation sector, principles in practice. It's a long talk, but basically it talks about how we as practitioners, most of you people maybe might work in the Ministry of Water or Department of Water Affairs, wherever you come from. So you need to understand the legal issues a little bit. We are not going to be lawyers, we are not lawyers, but I think in some cases you might be required to buy the services of a lawyer or lawyers. You have to go for the best. I think for Namibia, Itila, who is the best lawyer in Namibia right now? We have never been to court. So nobody knows Namanje. Sister Namanje.
We are aware of him, Prof.
Yeah, so
we don't know if he's the best lawyer, but we are aware of him.
Yeah, he is one of, let me say, the most sought about.
Yes,
Maybe
you are right.
he doesn't have to be the best, but a lot of people are going for him, unfortunately or fortunately. So you see, when you want to buy the service of a lawyer, you go to scavenge around, to go to Google or whatever, and check who is the best lawyer on this case. And maybe you end up with Sister Namanje or somebody else. There are many of them, of course. And then there's Lememo also, I say also good. Anyway, so you need to buy services, but you need to know what you are buying, the services, because you are not a lawyer, but you need to know what you want to know. Yeah, water right, for example. Someone is challenging the water right given to him, maybe in Okahanja, and he thinks that the amount of water which was given by the Ministry of Water is not fair, because he's getting very little, and the neighbor with a very big commercial farm around, just keeping some kudus or whatever it is, he's getting a very big share of water. So his right is very big, mine is very small. So you can challenge it. Now you need to get a lawyer. You don't have to go to be in the court yourself. So you buy the service of a lawyer, and that's the idea of saying, yes, I want to be defended by a lawyer. So that's the thing. And we shall talk about it here a little bit, because this is part of the legal aspects of this course. Okay, so this is the idea of this course, of this module, let me call it, or part of this module, because this is just part of the module. It's actually called module number 5. Okay. I don't know why it is so small. I'm trying to see how I can make it bigger. Oh, mamma mia, it didn't work for me. But anyway, if you see it there, it's okay because you can see it there.
Yes, Prof, we can see. Yes.
You see the introduction.
Yes, Prof. Clean water and adequate sanitation.
Okay, okay, that's good. So the idea is that, as I said, most of us might be working with the Ministry of Water or Department of Water Affairs or something to do with water. And this course is dealing with the water, integrated water resources management, IWRM. So obviously you deal with the water somehow. You are the manager, you are maybe permanent secretary, or what they call now the director, executive director of the ministry, ED or whatever. Or maybe you become the boss of NAMWater. So you're a big person. But you need to know a little bit of the law because you need to give the people clean water and adequate sanitation. And this is also covered at under United Nations Sustainable Development Goal, I think is SDG number 6. So obviously, you need to understand those things, the background. Even when you buy a lawyer or the services of a lawyer, you know what you are doing. And you know what is going to happen to you and what you should not do, for example. And the idea, of course, is just to keep the health of the people in check. And the biggest problem which you have is that mostly in many countries, because of poor governance of water and sanitation systems, that means that many people, especially in the peri-urban and rural areas, will not have the same services as you have in the urban services, the urban areas, for example. So in that case, the services are mostly unsatisfactory. Yeah. So that's the point, which is almost clear in every country that the rural people, the peri-urban areas, people living in Katutura there, or living in, that place called Greenwell Matongo. That's where I was living when I was there. So the services are very poor. So the question is, compare that and someone living in Klein Windhoek, for example. We are talking just Windhoek as a case study, of course. Yeah. So even that, if you look at the tariffs, they have these staggered tariffs that someone who's living in the rich areas, they pay a little bit more than someone living in Greenway Matongo, for example. So you pay maybe like maybe 8 Namibian dollars or rands per every unit, which means 1,000 liters or 1 cubic meter. But someone who is living in a Ausblick or what is that place, Klein Windhoek, Eros, you will pay like between 12 and 18 rands per cubic meter. So that's okay. But the question is, does it give him or her a right to waste the water? So anyway, in a short, because of poor governance, then these people who are living in the poor areas, they get less water. And of course, also the system is not well maintained. So a lot of water is also wasted in terms of unaccounted for water. So in that case, we need to deal with it and we need to do something about it. The other thing is that obviously the water is unsafe. So obviously we get more diseases in that particular area, which is poor. And I think sometimes people talk about just unaccounted for water, or people getting sick because the water is polluted or contaminated for that matter. But people, they are forgetting that the services includes the right pressure, for example. I mean, if you have got a bucket of water, you want to just collect 20 liters from the kiosk, just because the pressure is always low. That's a poor service. But people, because those people who are collecting the water, they don't get the, the gist or the idea between why is my bucket getting so long, I need a lot of time to fill the 20 liters, because the pressure is very low. Those are part of the service, a poor service, simple. So we need to deal with it also, even the poor areas, so that it must be almost the same as in the urban and also in the rural areas. So that's how we are supposed to deal with. I will make sure that the water, the services are as good in the rural just as in the urban centers. Okay, the other thing is that the amount, the services of water, they're not 24/7. They are not, the water service is not there for 24 hours. So what happens? It means that water is only there for maybe part of the day, or in 1 week, maybe a few days in a week. So you can imagine that type of service is very bad, because obviously they will tend to go to natural, whatever, polluted rivers or wells or whatever it is, which means they can get diseases. So our duty as leaders, or engineers, whatever it is, a manager, we need to make sure that this water is as clean as possible. Okay, so that is the idea, and the services must be 24/7, not the water which is intermittent. And as I said, the pressure must be done, must be ensured that the pressure is what is required. Now the question is, you are talking about the poor people, the living in the urban, peri-urban areas, and in the rural areas that when they buy the water from the vendors, the resellers of the water, the prices can be 10 to 20 times the one which is paid by the people who are living in the rich areas. If you are like you people in Windhoek, you know, if you are in Klein Windhoek, for example, you pay a little bit more in terms of the unit price. But the question is, you are getting the services 24/7. But if I live in Greenwell and Matongo, I might get the water maybe once a day, maybe once a week. So that's not fair. So this is, you have to make sure that the peri-urban areas and the rich areas, they get the same services. Rural areas, they need to walk a lot to get water. And of course, automatically, because of that situation, they suffer a lot, and a lot of people are suffering with diseases and torture simply because you don't have the services full time. I mean, 24/7, as they say. Okay, so we need to build that services properly. And and we have to be, we are responsible as engineers or managers of these water utilities. Water and sanitation services to the urban and lesser extent rural areas. So in many cases in rural areas, we forget about sanitation, and in many governments they think sanitation is a private issue, but water is a public issue. But they are forgetting one thing, that if the sanitation is not working, it becomes a public issue. Just think where you are living, wherever, in Windhoek there. And if the toilet blocks, yeah? A good example, some years ago, my friends who are living in Poly Heights, you know that building when you go through the main gate, the one on the right, the tall one. So that time there were no offices there. There were just accommodation for lecturers and staff. So one of those days, I think back in 2010, I think, or 2011 maybe. So something happened. The sewage was blocked. So the whole building, you could not flush, because if you flush, it just overflows into a floor. Now imagine we are on the 11th or 12th floor, I don't know. And then they say there's no flushing, because obviously the whole thing is dysfunctional. They had to suffer like 2 days. So if you want to visit the toilet, you have to go down to the administration building, or go to the administrative building, or go to e-house there, or go to other houses, buildings nearby there to help yourself. Now imagine I've got children, all these things. So they suffered a lot. So they could remember, even today, those people who used to stay there, there are some people who are still there. They know when the toilet is not working, my friend, it becomes a problem. But very recently, I think last year, they had a problem of water, which it has happened a lot of times, either the pipe bursts or whatever it is. There's no clean water going up to 11th floor. Or I think they told the highest floor is 11, I'm not sure, 11 or 12, I'm not sure. Anyway, so that was now water, clean water. But that was, they suffered, yes, of course. But they could easily come down the lift. There are 2 lifts. You can come down, collect the water in a bucket or in a canister, take the lift, go up, take a shower, or cook, shower nicely, dress like anybody else, and nobody can see you are suffering. So obviously, let's not forget, sanitation is even more important than water supply per se. In this case, if you look at this example. So you need to really make sure that your sanitation is in good order. And it's not a private issue, it's a public issue. And my own professor, the late Professor Duncan Mara, he passed on last year, 2022, but he taught me wastewater. And he always said, the biggest problem in Africa is that we don't talk. In many tribes, it's a taboo to talk about wastewater or sanitation in general. You cannot know until you grow up that your father or your mother actually visits the toilet, because it's not something which is discussed in the house. Okay, so it's a cultural thing. It's a taboo, sort of. I think you people, you know each other, you know your own situation, your own tribe, your own group back home. You know, when you are young, you don't know that your father goes to the toilet or your mother goes to the toilet, because it's something which is not discussed. So it's a cultural issue, and if you don't discuss it, it means you cannot manage it properly. Okay, so as a result of all of these things is that there is this sector of water and sanitation is still experiencing governance problems. As such, there is poor coverage and quality of the services. And the services here I'm talking about, in terms of water, it means includes the 24/7 continuous supply. It makes quality, and it also includes the pressure level in the area. It's not only to talk about how much water I can get. It's also, am I getting it all the time, day and night? So we need to address that one. But the other thing which you have to do here is to address these problems of integrity, which means issues of corruption, for example. These problems, integrity and accountability must be highly observed. We need to discuss these things. What are the problems? What integrity? How do we ensure that integrity in the services which are being given to the people? And then how are people taken, how are they taken to be accountable to what they are doing? And who is allowed to take other people to be accountable? So definitions, which offer a way of linking the terms in the presented letter are going to be presented later. Okay, no problem. Okay, now the question is, adherence to the governance principles of transparency and accountability based on core values of honesty. Yeah, I think that's very important. We have to be honest in our quality, in our service provision. Equity, so you cannot distribute the water according to some type of criteria which is not acceptable. For example, you say these people, because of their color or because of their religion or because of their height or whatever it is, they should get this amount of water. You remember during apartheid, we had all those stories. Yeah. So, but now equity, people have not to get the equal amount of water, but they must get what they're demanding. Maybe I demand only 2 liters per second. Someone else is demanding 4 liters per second. If the water is there, why not? And then we have to use professionalism in the work to do, i.e. integrity is required to reduce corruption and of course pollution, and to ensure that efficiency of whole system, including, I said, to sustainable a pressure which is available in the whole system, and the water supply must be there all the time, okay, in the amount which I need. Accountability, it says multifaceted, sorry. So it says accountability is seen as a broad set to values that includes other values of goals, and goals such as, of course, we need a good governance. There must be some democracy, obviously. People must participate, so participation is very important. Transparency, don't hide things. Tell the people the truth, even the bad ones. For example, if you are building a dam in your country, I think the last one I saw in Namibia was a Naktal Dam down in the south, a very big one, a very good idea, a very noble idea, obviously. People are going to get water for water supply, for their cows, for their farms, and whatever it is. But also we can tell them that, yes, by building this dam, we are also creating a habitat for disease vectors like mosquitoes. So they have to be ready, or maybe bilharzia. So they have to be informed. So transparency is very important. You tell them the truth, that also it's possible to have mosquitoes. And I don't think that in the South, the people there are used to mosquitoes. So now they will get mosquitoes. So they have to know there will be mosquitoes. They have to get either treated or they will sleep in nets and. So tell them the truth. Transparency is very important. Fairness, everybody needs it. Give him the water or her. Efficiency, no losses. They can't say we are producing so much water and more than 50% of the water is lost on the way. Transmission losses, either because of friction losses, or the infrastructure, or because of people who are stealing the water. They connect themselves and they get the water. Integrity and responsibility. So obviously, these are the issues which we need to deal with. Yeah. Accountability is also, because it's so embedded in our lives, we need to deal with it. Means that with individuals and the community take ownership of their rights and ensure that the states, as primary duty bearers, respect, protect, and fulfill their international and national obligations. Obviously, there will be national obligations. International, regional things will come on board because, for example, you people are coming from, almost everybody there is coming from SADC, yes, Zambia, Botswana, South Africa, Namibia, for that matter, Angola. All of us, we share most of our rivers, our river basins. Most of the, actually over 70% of the rivers or basins, water basins in SADC, they're actually owned by 2 or more countries or nations, for that matter. If you look at the Kavango, we Angola, Namibia, and Botswana. If we talk about the Kunene, we have what? Angola, we have Namibia, right? If we talk about the Sengu stroke orange, then the Lesotho, South Africa, of course, Lesotho is the source, highlands there. So Lesotho, South Africa, Botswana to some extent anyway, and then Namibia. So this water is shared. Talk about in Nkomati, the same story. Swazi will come in, South Africa is in, Mozambique is in. Zambezi, we are 8 members, riparian countries in that river. So all this, we are sharing this water. So in that case, obviously, we need to fulfill our international and national obligation. National obligation, meaning we must make sure that our people in the country, they are getting the right amount of water to sustain their lives and their goods. International in the sense that you look at the regional only, for example, already the rivers which I mentioned now, they are all regional, they are transboundary because they are owned by 2 or more countries. Okay, if you look at the Nile, it's quite international because it goes all the way from East Africa to the Mediterranean, which means it is covering all the way Sudan, Egypt, Ethiopia, and whatever. And when it goes to Mediterranean, it means the southern Europe, they're also getting the Nile River water into the Mediterranean Sea. So obviously, you can imagine. So all these things must be taken to border. And we're looking at international agreements, United Nations agreements, which our countries have signed and ratified. We have all those agreements. In the SADC, we have got the SADC, the revised SADC water protocol. This is what governs our water in this region. And then we have the Nile Basin. We have got the Nile Basin Initiative. And then all the other rivers, we have organizations like Orascom, Okacom, and all this. So we have to agree with that. And then we have got the United Nations, the UN Convention on shared uses of non-navigable waters in the whatever it is. So we have all this, which we have, our countries have already ratified. Agreement they have ratified. So obviously, it means we're bound. It's like a law. We are bound by this agreement. And in that case, we have to follow what it says. Okay, so in the broader senses, accountability is used to qualify a situation or an actor's performance. So how do you respond? It says responses and sense of responsibility, that is willingness to act in a transparent, fair, and equitable way. I think this is really a nice definition here. And of course, if you go down there, you see that also it says justification of an actor's performance vis-a-vis others, the assessment or judgment of that performance against certain standards. So obviously we need to look at the certain standards which we have agreed, either as a country or as a region, like in this case, SADC, or is it the Nile Basin, is it a Community agreement, or whatever it is, or RESCOM. We have agreements, Zambezi, ZAMCOM. We have some agreements under the SADC protocol. And if that is not enough, you can always go and look at the UN resolution on utilization of waters, non-navigable waters. Accountability says core human rights principle, and often seen in relation to the right to access effective remedies and international and national mechanisms that provide redress to victims of a human rights violation. Okay, here I can go back to the actual basic law. I think you know, either from your first degree or second degree somewhere, for those who did water, I think there's a place we talk about the law. What is the law? What does it give you? Yeah. So, and we say it's a definition actually. And that's why I'm looking at this violation. So a law gives you what we call enforceable rights. Okay? Enforceable rights. These are rights which can be enforced by law in any country. This is, by definition, this is a law. That's one thing which you have to remember. Now, it gives me rights. It means it gives the right to other people also, the same law. So I can't use my rights to override somebody else's rights. The question is, what if someone violates those rights? So the second one says there's a responsibility. There's a responsibility to respect those rights, which means your own rights and the rights of other people. So you cannot, you cannot transcend on someone else's rights. So you must respect those rights. You are given the rights by the law, but you have to respect them, which means you have the rights, your colleague has got rights also. So you cannot override his right or her rights. Now, what if you do that? It's a violation. That's what I'm talking about here, the rights violation. So if there's violation, the law also provides for there will be a consequence, either a fine or a jail if you take it into court, and the court proves that you made something wrong here, you broke the law. So in that case, something must happen. There must be some consequences. So if you go to what is the next door there? Wet area. From the university there, you go to, okay, let's say you go to Kalahari. Oh, no, it's called Avani nowadays. You go to Avani. And then at Avani, you find Mashauri there drinking his beer or whatever. And then, so, oh, this is a professor, he gave me a very low mark in certain whatever. And you fight there. And what happens? What happens that they are, by law, the state or the government for that matter will take you to task for breach of peace, because you have your right, but Mashauri has got his rights also. But you breach the peace because the state is supposed to be ensuring the peace of everybody and his goods or her goods. So now, because of this fight, you are taken to court by the state, and Mashauri will be only a witness. So, but now you have, this is a criminal offense, so it will go through criminal procedure and then there will be a consequence. Maybe the state will say, the judge will just say, well, yes, you'll go to the window correctional facility for 2 years and maybe you don't have even a chance to appeal against it or whatever it is. So things like that. So when there's a violation, know that the consequences are there. Of course, the same victim can go to court through civil procedure, thoughts to defend or to to demand, for example. He can demand that he should be paid something because he was hurt and his respect was in trouble there because he was at Avani. They know him. He's a professor. He's got a nice necktie and whatever it is. And now he was beaten by his former student or his student, whatever it is. So all these things, he can go to, now in this case, go to Namanje, of course, and then get Namanje to say that this price is like 200 million Namibian dollars. And you know you cannot get 200 million, but you have started a very good price. Talk about the price of the suit which I was putting on, the necktie and what, and if I lost a tooth and whatever. So all these things are taken into civil consideration, and the price tag can be put there. The question is, you don't have to get it, but the question is, if you start with 200 and in the long run you get 5 million, it's not too bad anyway. It's a good bargain. But anyway, you need to buy the services of a good lawyer. So anyway, the idea here is that even in normal circumstances, if you violate the law, there is this situation of that there can be consequences. Okay. So it says the context of transitional justice accountability is discussed in relation to monitoring, truth-seeking, justice and reconciliation. Of course, you can also deal with these things out of the court through arbitration. You don't have to go through the normal court. You can agree. Accountability means also ensuring that the individuals and the communities own their rights, and that states as primary duty bearers respect, protect, and fulfill their international or national obligations. So this is the thing which we have to own our rights, but also the state or the government, for that matter, must ensure that we have they ensure that my rights are protected, my goods are also protected. That's the idea. There's a violation. It is the state who can ensure that my rights are protected. So life goes like that, even under normal circumstances. So there's a long story about accountability. I'm not going to go through all because it will take us a lot of time. Let's go into water because water is our issue. Accountability in water, water, supply, sanitation, health sector. It's a democratic principle whereby elected officials and those in charge of providing access to water supply and sanitation services account for their actions and answer to those they serve. This is also actually, it's a quote, it's not mine, it's a quote from SIWI, which is actually Stockholm International Water Institute, yeah. SIWI and the UNICEF, of course, you know, 2015. It's just a quote. So we have to, these people who are supposed to take care of our rights, they must make sure that the democratic rights are protected, okay, in terms of access to water supply and sanitation. Okay, OHCHR, anybody knows that? What is that? Hello? Hello, anybody there?
Yes, Prof.
What is OHCHR?
Colleagues, anybody who knows?
You can always Google. Professor Google is always free of charge for you. It's actually Office of the Human Rights Commissioner. Each country has got an office like that. Commissioner for Human Rights, because it's a UN organization. So there's UN Organization of Human Rights. So each country usually has got an office like that. In Social Rights, 2015, explore the accountability concept using the three-dimensional approach. Firstly, it's the actors involved in the provision and regulation of water and sanitation services. And it is emphasized that there is these actors must have clearly defined responsibilities and performance standards. So obviously, what it means that this accountability is a serious matter, and the government must take care of it because it's a human right thing. And I think that in many countries, this is embedded in their laws or in even in their constitution. So the second thing which has to be there is that the actors must provide explanation for and justification of their actions. Why did you do this? Or inaction, which means why did you do this? Yeah. And decisions which you took. You must be able to explain and provide explanations what you did. Yeah. What you didn't do. Why didn't you act on it? And your decisions on that particular issue. For example, giving me the water right, which I asked maybe 2 liters per second, and you gave me only 1 liter per second, and. So you must defend your rights. Okay? You must defend your rights, that your decisions, that, well, I did this one because I think it's the right thing to do, that this person does not need so much water because there's no much, he could have got more water, but there's no enough water to give because there are a lot of other people who are asking for the water anyway. So, but then there are mechanisms. Yeah. So accountability is all about balancing power in order to protect the most marginalized and those living in the most vulnerable situations. These are people living in the poor areas, for example. And in many cases, they don't even know what their rights. And sometimes they don't know their rights, but also they are being, even if they knew, their rights are being trodden on by those people who have got the rights, their rights, they have got money, and as such, they don't care about the other people who are there and who are supposed to have their rights also, especially in water and sanitation. So these are the issues which we need to deal with. So this is accountability, and that must be taken care of. And also, it serves to mediate the relation between people as right holders and those that wield power. The people who got the power and affect enjoyment of the former's rights. So meaning that those who are rich, those people with power, usually they enjoy the life which should be enjoyed by everybody else also. For example, having the services, water, sanitation. But unfortunately, sometimes because these people are poor and the people with power, they tend to throw on them. Okay, so there is social accountability, refers to taken by people, the media, and civil society or civil organizations, society organizations, to hold states and decision makers to account, which means they are demanding responsibilities. These people must be accountable. The government and whatever it must be accountable for whatever they have done. So the media, the newspapers, the television, the radio, they play a role there. The media is very important. Private sector, they play a role also because for them they want to make money, yes, but they want fairness also. Donors or the so-called development partners, they play a role because they put their money there. They usually put their money in NGOs and the government itself. But the question is, these are the people who can have really ensure that there is social accountability within the sector, or WASH for that matter. Water supplies and water, sanitation, and health, of course. Support these actions. Our mechanism provide extra sets of checks and balances on the state in the public interest. So the state could say, yes, we are doing well, everything is okay, but these social people can say, no, I don't think that you are doing the best. So the speech is not the best. I think because I want to read them, they just show how relationship between the vertical and the horizontal and whatever relations between this power play. Accountability. Mechanism vary and they can include investigative journalism. I think I've heard about this, Al Jazeera, for example. There's nobody from Zimbabwe in this group, okay? But this investigative journalism, even in Namibia, they are very serious people. They look at these issues which are not on the surface, and they blow them up nicely after some months of investigating on them. Obviously, they must have some facts. They can't just draw. The editors will be in problem. I think you know about the people in Namibia. You know newspapers like Informate and Confidente, for example. These are the type of investigative journalism we can say about journals. Sometimes they blow their nose too much, but still they give some inside information which does not come in the papers like the Namibia or Republica or whatever the other newspaper. Yeah. So obviously it's also good. It shows what the state is not doing well according to the law and according to the rules and legal backing. Public hearings, yes, sometimes people are called upon by the members of parliament or a committee of the parliament for public hearing on some issues like water or watering of the cattle, irrigation, and whatever it is. Opinion polls, yes, some companies, they do opinion polls. Which party now is doing very well, maybe in Namibia or in Angola, and. So opinion polls can be also forming. It's also it's part of accountability actually. Citizen report cards. In some countries they have these citizen report cards, but you know what? If you have a box suggestion box in some companies, whatever it is, they just make sure that every week they just open the padlock. They don't even read what is there. They just put it into the trash can. They don't read it. So these reports are not good. But some countries, these cards are very important. They actually read them. So they have the box maybe in the minutes of whatever, but they are not the people who are going to open the box. It's another group which will open, which is independent. Maybe the anti-corruption commission will come and open that box and take and read what are they talking about this ministry or this sector. All right. Participatory public policy making. Yeah, if there's a policy being thought about it, they can talk about the participatory public policy. I think this has happened. I remember once there were rich people wanted to have a lot of tobacco up in Katima Mlilo, and the people were involved to discuss this issue, and it was quite interesting. But in the long run, the people were not very happy to have tobacco there. They thought they could use that land to produce maize or other food crops. The other thing, you have a watchdog. I think in many countries you have the what they call this government protector. Yeah, Namibia they have, South Africa they have, I think Botswana they have. Many countries have this someone called the protector. He protects the people. So the government could do something, or the president could say something or do something which seems to be against the constitution. So instead, before becoming a constitutional crisis, then they go to this protector, the watchdog, and in this case, perform a watchdog issues here and then see what's happening. Otherwise, if service providers realize that they need to be accountable towards a strong group of citizens, adherence to the quality standards within the public service delivery sector can be increased. Yeah, so when they know that the people can also wake up and they are like a watchdog, they have to be careful also with what they are doing. So this is normal. WASH services continued. Supporting accountability is the provision of WASH services, includes improving the flow of information about services, the quality of maybe the infrastructure for washing hands or toilets, public toilets, for example. Where do I get a public toilet? Maybe in the town, even if you think about the window, where do we get a public toilet? Even if you have to pay for it, do you have to go to the Kalahari or Avani hotel, which is a private hotel anyway? but you use it as a public toilet. But where is the public toilet there? Other than the one which we see in the hotels. Just I'm talking about the CBD. Forget about anywhere else. Can you think of a public toilet? You people, you have been there in Windhoek for quite a while. Can you tell me roughly where can I find a public toilet? In the CBD, Central Business District.
I'm thinking of Van Hill Mall, so I don't know if that is public or for the premises of the mall.
Well, you could say it's both public and private. Because when you go into that shop or that mall, there's a big placard which you don't read usually. It's written, admission is what? The right
It's a reserve.
to admission is reserved. So basically, the door is open, the gate is open. Even if you go to Kalahari, you can just go in and go out. But if, for example, let us say the manager doesn't like your face, or for one reason or another, says you, please don't come to this premises. You can't take him to court because there is a big placard there in front showing admission, admission to this place. Yeah, the right of admission. Yeah, so it's basically a private place. So you could say Vine Hill or Avani there is also basically a private place actually, or Hilton for that matter. Okay, of course you can go there, take a cup of coffee, go to the toilet, or you can just go to the toilet and walk out and nobody can ask you, why do you come to use the toilet here? Usually they will be polite enough to leave you alone. Or go to the bank, they will have a public toilet, obviously. Most of the shops will have that, or restaurants, of course, they'll have a toilet. But is there any private toilet? I'm sorry, a public toilet. I'm talking about this CBD only, just the center there. I'm not talking about Greenville, Matongo. I'm not talking about Klein Windhoek, whatever. I'm just talking about the CBD, the Central Business District. Have you seen a public toilet?
I don't think it's there. I haven't seen it myself.
Even if you have to pay for it.
I would say maybe I haven't looked for it, but I haven't just seen it, so I don't know.
Okay, next time when you're in town, you people, you know the building called Francis Ndongo.
No, myself, I don't know it. Maybe
It's a tall
someone
building,
else.
maybe 5-story building in the center. I don't know how to describe it. It's very much along the Independence Avenue. It's a corridor there where they are selling. It's a walk through shopping things. There's a lot of small shops. Anyway, Ndongo will be there somewhere there. Anyway, there's a private, a public toilet basically, where actually you can pay. I'm not sure now. I think it was one Namibian dollar. It's the only place I've seen where it's really a public toilet. You pay your $1. Now, obviously, if you go to game, you will pay also to go to the toilet, right? What about Marua Mall? What about Groove Mall? You don't pay for the toilet. You use the toilet. That's what it says. So anyway, just check. But I can tell you there are very few public toilets free for paying. The rest, of course, if you go to the mall, obviously it is difficult for them to arrange for payment, I think. So anyway, but the question is, if you go to the railway station, maybe, yeah, bus station, yeah, just check anyway. So these are the public things we think. Okay, let's go to political accountability. Means that the government must be held accountable to the citizens of the country and that it must not abuse its power. This is a very strong statement but it's a fact of life. It's a type of accountability for the government. The government must be accountable for whatever it's doing, and it cannot, yeah, basically, it can't abuse its power because they are strong people. Of course, in the rural areas where people don't even know their rights, even in the urban areas, in some cases, people don't know their rights. So their rights are being threatened. The consequences is not there. So it beats the actual thing. You remember I talked about there must be a consequence for violating the right of somebody else. So that's what it means here. The other thing, the government can make a mistake also here by the appointment of specific individuals to various decision-making positions must be justified based on the objective criteria. Meaning, you can just appoint somebody in certain positions simply because they are your brothers, they are cronies, your friends, or people of certain kind. They might not even perform. So we need this. If you do that, it's also misuse of power. And the individuals and their departments must be accountable. Must account for their activities and spending in transparent ways. So how did the money which was voted in for this type of work, and how was it used, and for what purposes, and were all the receipts collected, and of course that's the work of the Auditor General to deal with it. If we fails there is also the anti-corruption people, they have to deal with it. So all those things have to be done. Here the idea is to make sure the government is actually accountable for whatever it's doing. In the WASH sector, political accountability means that should be effective mechanism by which decision makers and the government are held to account for their responsibility to ensure access to WASH services for all the people. That's water, sanitation, and health. Now, the politicians are taken into consideration. They have to be held accountable. Media's effectiveness in holding the government accountable by writing, of course, mechanisms in the place of complaints and redress the WASH projects and operations. So meaning that citizen freedom of information and association, civil society's ability to participate in planning, budgeting, and monitoring evaluation in WASH sector. So it means that while the government is doing whatever in WASH, there must be a way, somebody must say something about it, that maybe the planning is bad, the implementation is not good at all, and. So information available on citizens entitlements to WASH services are mechanisms which can help hold government accountable to WASH services, for example. And for us, water business to WASH is very important. Yeah, water, sanitation, and health. These three things are tied together. Yeah, that's why I was asking for a public toilet in the CBD of Windhoek, because we cannot say I can go to Avani and release myself, or I go to Hilton there and release myself. Yeah, think about all those small restaurants there that you go to them, you are not intending to take any coffee or eat there, but you need to go there because you need a toilet, simply because there's no easy way to find a public toilet per se, even at the CBD, unless you go to this, let me call them private ones, like Groove Mall or Marua Mall or whatever. So all these things. So we have to think about this is something serious, and the civil society, the NGOs, the CBOs, and whatever, they have to write about these things, because it's your right, it's our right to have these public things where I can actually help myself. What if I'm just coming from NAST, I want to go to town, and suddenly my stomach disagrees with me before I even reach the town? What do I do? There's no bush there to go to. Even if I go to the bush, I think the city mothers and fathers will take me to court. So I need a private place where I can release myself. Now, where do you go when there's no private? You can't just jump out of the taxi, run like a madman to the nearest toilet you can find. Maybe by the time we find it's too late. Okay, so these are the issues. These are public things which are the newspapers, the radio, the TV, whatever it is. You can actually take it on board. Yeah. The administrative accountability translates into ability of citizens to hold public organizations to account if they are failing to ensure access to wash services for all. That's what I mean. So you can imagine this is a right. You can actually ask for this or demand for this because it's part of the deal. Financial. Individuals and institutions must be truthful, accurately document the intended and the actual use of resources allocated to it. I'm talking about mostly wash. The city of Windhoek, let me as a good example, the city of Windhoek, I'm sure they have money allocated every year for these public things, like removal of solid waste, removal, evacuation of stormwater, yeah, from the city, removal of course, liquid waste by system of sewerage, all the way to Windhoek treatment, wastewater treatment, whatever. So we have to look at it, we as councillors, we can question the councillors because everywhere you live there in Windhoek, you belong to a certain councillors. There are councillors representing you in the board or the councillors or whatever. So in that case, they have to defend you. Why do I not have a public toilet wherever I'm living in Windhoek, whatever it is? So it may also require that individuals with the discretionary powers account for their earnings through program of assets and declaration. So there are people who are given powers. They have got what they call discretionary powers for some things in the offices. So they can make decisions how to use the money, some money in the office where they work. That includes buying maybe small things like a pet cash, which they can buy sugar or tea or coffee or gas or water. Nowadays they have water, bottled water in the offices. So instead of buying this water and sugar for his office or her office, he buys this for his house because he has got this discretionary powers by law. But how does he or she account for this? It's very difficult. You can't tell him or you can't ask him, why are you having 10 bottles of bottled water in your car? Or you are putting water from the office going to a car and whatever, let me say. He must account. Which means there must be some type of receipts which are accounted for. And honestly, how this money has been used or this fund has been used discretionarily. And that's why you are given that power. Accountability for wash sector refer to mechanisms put in place to ensure transparent budget. There must be a budget. And of course, when there's a budget, there must be a way this expenditure, budget expenditure, both from state and from service providers. It must be as transparent as possible. And then there must be a way the budget expenditure tracking. Nowadays, everything is soft, so it can be tracked on the computer. Internal and social auditing. Public access to utility information. So we see this many times when the Auditor General and controller of the government, when he gives a report, I think once in a year, and you see that how much money was collected or was not collected, simply because people are using their discretionary powers to hide under that. They didn't report. They got the money, they have used it, but they can't account for it because they don't have any receipts. And there's nothing much they can do about it. Now, who do we hold accountable? It says there are many actors involved in the protecting the right to water and sanitation, including the government entities, ministries, NAM Water, for example, and Department of Water Affairs, whatever it is. International organizations, There are quite a number of NGOs coming from the international family. Yeah. Global, I don't know what, global what. So they come under this. Now, how do they account for the money which they were given in the name of a certain country? In this case, let me say Angola, Namibia, Botswana, South Africa. Because that money is coming from the donors, yes, but these donors or development partners, they have an aim, and the NGO or a CBO coming to a country, there is a constitution they give it to the government of that country, saying that we are coming here to do this and this and this, end result will be this and this and this. The question is, they have to account for this money, their own salaries, and how they build maybe a school, donation for this and that, or a road, I don't know what. So all these things, they must be accounted for. Even that money is not the government money, but they have to account for the money which is labeled like it's been used in that country from another country, international organizations. Cooperation in NGO and governmental organizations. All this must account for money which they receive from different development partners, whether they are local, national, regional, or even international. They must be accounted for. The question here is not to discourage to have NGOs or CBOs, international ones or regional ones. The question is to see how this money is being used properly. It can't be used, for example, to create havoc in a country against the same government, for example, you know. So these are the issues which we think, or which accountability here comes on board. It's not only for the government, but also it comes on board for, yeah, on board for not only the government, but also for the private, like the private organizations, like social organizations like NGOs and whatever, whether they are local or international or regional for that matter. Who is accountable and to whom? Yeah, this is also a serious question. Government are responsible and accountable to the population in their territories. So the government is responsible for the people they rule. There's no question about it. However, actors involved in the water and sanitation services provisions or whose conduct may affect enjoyment of the rights to water and sanitation are not limited to the government. They could be individuals, yeah, not limited to government. Actors other than the states may be held accountable for the conduct, especially when their actions, of course, realization of human rights and water sanitation through their influence, decisions, and actions sorry, or inaction. So it's not a question of actions only. Sometimes it's because you didn't do the right thing. Sorry. You didn't do the right thing and something did not happen. The people are suffering. Okay, the organization, the whole range of actors beyond states, including individuals, local organizations, private companies, funders, for example, the people who are bringing the money, and the international organizations or institutions, like developing partners, for example. Approach imposes human rights obligations upon states and individuals that they may directly hold other actors accountable also. So this is actually possible. It's quite possible. Formal and informal providers. And that is a challenge in many African countries. We have like two governments. We have the formal government and we have the informal. And the informal can be a challenge. So actors, states that are accountable in the water and sanitation sector, including formal and the informal service providers, which range from private companies, non-governmental organizations, CBOs, and individuals involved in the service provision. For example, where I live here in Dar es Salaam, I'm not in the central sewage system, so I have a septic tank and a soak pit. So when the septic tank is full, or I think it is full, I need to call the informal, what they call septic emptiers, and pay for that service. So these are an informal, they are not formal people. These are informal service providers. They will come and do their duty. Now they have a duty, I'll pay for them to evacuate the waste from my septic tank, but they have a responsibility where to dispose it off. They have to look at they have to be careful, be wary about the laws and regulations of the city. You can't just go from here to the sea. The sea is like 50 kilometers, not kilometers, but 50 meters, actually less than 100 meters from my wall here. So they can just go to the sea there and empty, for example, because that will be against the law. So there are specific areas where they are allowed to dump the waste which is or septage which comes from houses. So they either take them to centralized system of oxidation ponds where they can empty into the anaerobic ponds, or wherever they have areas which are designated for that. And that is a possibility. That is the responsibility. It's not mine. My responsibility, I've reported, I've paid for it, for the services, and these are the informal providers, for example. But they also include business enterprises that may have an impact on the enjoyment of human rights to water and sanitation in the course of their operations. So other people who are not only the septic tank emptiers, but also the people who are selling maybe water when there's a shortage of water in certain sector, certain area of the city, for example. These are private people, informal, but they do this work anyway. And many other services, of course. PPP, the so-called public-private partnership, may positively influence the development of infrastructure and increase access to public services. Yes, we know in some countries they have these private roads where you have to pay a road toll, T-O-L-L. You pay a road toll to pass through. So the road toll is to pay for the investment paid by or invested by the private sector. So it's PPP because the road services are supposed to be public, but maybe the government at that particular moment didn't have the funds to do another road or a bridge. Then they can give the right for a private company to build a road or a bridge, or I don't know, a ferry for that matter, between one point to another. In that case, anyway, they will get their money through this toll money. However, they can commit serious human rights abuses or be complicity in the violation. So they can violate the laws also. 1 minute. Let's take 3 minutes break. Hello? 3 minutes.
Okay, Prof. Thank you. 3 minutes break.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, I'm back. Hello.
Yes, Prof, we are here.
Okay, good. So we continue. So how can they violate? They can violate the rules, including disconnections when users are incapable of paying, water pollution, over obstruction, and forced displacement of populations. Meaning, what happens then if people cannot pay for their services? And you say, I'm going to disconnect electricity for your area, or water for that matter. You can say there's nothing like free lunch, of course, but the question is, what do you do to the people who are poor? Do you have money? Do you have provisions? How do you take care of these people who cannot pay? When users are incapable of paying, what do you do? And you're a private company. In the private company, by nature, you are there to make money. Bilateral, multilateral funders, the so-called development partners, can also impose type of services provision or tariff schemes through a series of conditions or funding criteria with impact on enjoyment of human rights, in particular with respect to the affordability of the services. So in some cases, some development partners can say, we are going to help to develop a water project in this particular area, but we are going to make sure that this water supply or this sanitation system will be affordable to everybody. They can have staggered prices or tariffs so that everybody can get that service. Maybe for the first 1 or 5 years, that they must make sure that everybody can actually have the services. And slowly they can increase the tariff as time goes on. But this is also a possibility to deal with. Who can hold who? Who hold actors accountable? It says human rights to the water and sanitation rights holders are legitimate individuals entitled to hold actors accountable for affecting the enjoyment of their rights. Individuals can hold actors accountable directly or delegate their role to members of the civil society, for that matter, and entities vertical accountability. Talks about the human rights bodies, including national human rights institutions, are mandated to seek justice for grievances expressed by rights holders. Individuals can also voice their concerns through civil society network and other associations. So this is also possible. And this is who is involved: international organization, transnational, national corporations, and whatever. Responsibility related to human rights, water, are often divided and unclear sometimes. Decentralization of services provision, fragmented responsibilities, and unclear roles make it difficult for people to navigate, to know whom to turn for assistance and whom to hold accountable for realizing their human right to water and sanitation. So sometimes it can be a difficult thing because either because you don't have that knowledge or that information, everything is not so transparent, or maybe it demands for me to be literate in computer, maybe, because nowadays they will tell you everything is soft. So you have to go to the web and get this and this and that. The question is, the other generation, like me, the BBC, the born before computers, we still have issues with the computers. And how do you expect a man or a person in the village to go to the web? Which web? Is the country covered, for example? Is there an infrastructure to begin with which covers the whole country effectively so that my father or my grandfather can actually read his water or his or her water bills at home. No way. So clearly identify roles and responsibility of the actors whose influence decisions affect the provision of water and sanitation services. They must be clearly identify the roles. Ensure that accountability mechanisms are properly transferred when the roles and responsibilities are transferred from one actor to another. Maybe the ministry changes and. Now we have to have these things written down clearly. Adopt the normative content of human rights principles as the basis for performance. Now make priorities, of course, the provision of water and sanitation in situation of multiple accessibility demands, meaning that you must make your plan for your priorities. Which priorities are we talking about? Is it water and sanitation or other issues are being taken into consideration? Yeah. So prioritization is also very important, and water and sanitation is very, very important to put it in the right. Yeah. So basically, states should also establish clear coordination mechanism within the governmental institutions. Yeah, these are vertical, horizontal, and whatever. Strengthen the capacity of local government and service providers. This includes training of human resources, for example, technicians, artisans, engineers, accountants. Nowadays, IT people are required almost everywhere because most of the things will be procurement is actually sought, and clearly allocate and define responsibilities of stakeholders and regulate their implementation. Identify informal services, service providers, and put in place regulations for those. I think I mentioned this one. The people who are doing the septic tank emptiers, for example. Yes, they can be private, they can be informal people, yes, but they must follow the rules, the regulations. Where are they going to empty? Where are they going to deposit this whatever they took from someone's house? So that is very important. And E, when the responsibility of the service provisions are transferred to communities, ensure that accountability measures for any human rights violations that may occur owing to aggressive practices are in place. So there must be a way that the rules and organizational issues are taken care of properly. The principle of accountability aligns with 1, the right of access to an effective remedy. If there's a violation, yes, must be a remedy. And it says, with the mechanisms that provide redress to victims of human rights violations. Remember, we're talking about the law. The law gives you what they call something which you can demand, which means you can actually get from a court of law. But the question is, what if these rights or responsibilities, nobody respects them? So there must be consequences. If there's violation, what then? There must be a way they can redress violations. And if it's personal, there must be a way of my rights can be remedied by either compensation, which is a legal issue for being molested by somebody else, or someone who has destroyed my property, because that is also part of the state. I take care of myself, my life, and also take care of my my goods and services. Okay. Accountability also supports, empowers rights and holders to request information or action taken through. So I can ask, I can almost demand to be a participant in a opinion meeting or whatever it is. So participation. And I demand also transparency. Whatever is happening which will affect me. Access to information from the Ministry of whatever, because I need that information for my well-being. Monitoring, yeah, from last year, what happened this year, is there any improvement or no improvement? The monitoring is very important. Basically, assessment, what has happened in real life from last year to this year and as we go. Enforcement mechanism, is there, if there's a violation, is there any system to enforce? I say an enforcement mechanism. Then oversight of progress and possible setbacks. If there are some setbacks, what can we do? Is there a system to redress this issue? Transparency and participation is one of the principles of accountability. So transparency, I think this is critical in many countries in Africa. Transparency is like a taboo. So it's a problem. Anyway, transparency and participation is very important. Transparency improves accountability and lowering levels of corruption. It's very true. If everything is laid in the open, everything is transparent, obviously corruption will be minimized. Increased access to information enables citizens to scrutinize the work of the government, and more transparency can put pressure on government officials to be accountable, perform better, and shun corruption. So somehow these are some of the issues which can help to reduce corruption or lack of integrity in any way. And obviously, water and the sector of water and sanitation is a sector which is prone to corruption because a lot of things which we buy are very specialized. And some of these machines which we buy are very specialized and very, very expensive. For example, if you are buying pumps to pump clean water, easy, you can just buy a pump which is basically mild distilled, whatever it is. But if it's wastewater, you can't just use a mild distilled pump. So obviously you need a pump which is not attacked by corrosion. So it means that I'll need a pump which is either stainless steel or something with epoxy, whatever, very expensive thing, pumps that will be covered in a way it cannot be corroded by wastewater, because wastewater is very corrosive material. Okay, so then the pipes themselves, they are very specialized. Then the reinforcements which are required for the water tanks and storage and whatever it is. What about the system itself? Yeah, of the sewer systems and whatever it is. All these things will need as a special thing. So obviously, because they are very special and maybe there are very few providers, that also increases the chance of corruption or being people are not very, let me say, they don't maintain integrity here. Okay, so we need to deal with it. Enforcement is the ability to oversee actors and apply sanctions when they give unsatisfactory answers. There must be consequences for the providers. If they are making malicious issues or connotations, then there must be some consequences. What happens? Are they going to jail, or they're going to pay fine, or they're going to whatever? Enforceability of accountability encompasses two perspectives. The first being the process whereby bodies and the mechanisms oversee actors' compliances with the standards that are in line with the human rights principles. That's the first one. Second is from the perspective of individuals, whereby enforceability provides a venue to claim rights to water and sanitation by enforcing actors' compliance and to exercise the right to effective remedy. So you can imagine we have to deal with these things because water is very important, and obviously we need to comply how the rule says. It says the oversight of actors conduct to assess whether performance standards are met is prerequisite to enforceability. Oversight mechanism exists through the state, independent institutions, that means like regulators, human rights commissions, institutions, anti-corruption agencies. For example, in many countries we have, some of them are white elephants, unfortunately, and the state auditing institutions. In many countries they have auditor general's office. The civil society, of course, organized CBOs and NGOs. All these people are very important, including, don't forget, the media are very important. Yes, media is no shade here. Media also plays a crucial role in the oversight, despite not having power to enforce any outcome. They serve as a watchdog function. It's very, very true. They have no powers to enforce any rules or laws for that matter. But they can mention things. They can give the secret. For example, the investigative journalism. They can give the facts that in this particular project, we know the people who got this and that. I think in Namibia, you know about the fish rot. So it came from journalists. They have no powers, but they did what they call investigative journalism into that for 3 or so months, and they caught those guys, unfortunately or fortunately, in this so-called fish rot situation now. So they don't have the powers, but they have the powers to investigate and blow the whistle. Now it's up to the government to take up the issues. Sorry, it's raining cats and dogs again. Let me close my window. Sorry, 1 minute. Oh, yeah. Sorry, it seems the tropical rains are here. They are coming everywhere.
Okay, Prof. You're welcome.
Okay, we are almost there, but I would like to stop there first. Let's have a few questions if you have got a question on these issues. It seems like it's a really mouthful. Yes, it's quite loaded topic, but the issue remains that we need to deal with water and sanitation, and there's good governance. We make sure that there's no corruption in this provision of water and sanitation. Yeah, you might not be the permanent secretary or the executive director in the ministry, but you might be a director somewhere. You might be the CEO of NAM Water or NAM Power, whatever. So you can imagine. So if you don't deal with these things, there are legal issues which can bounce back on you. And sometimes you might work here, not necessarily the top guy, but somewhere in the cog, medium level manager, whatever it is. That's why you need to know a little bit about these things, and and know your boundaries, of course. That my boundaries are here, and if I need more things, I have to go to the lawyer of the ministry, because each ministry has got a lawyer, or they will refer to the Attorney General, how they can help, because he is or she is the legal advisor to the government, is in power. So it means that in that case, you can get the legal help. So you don't need to appear in the court, maybe primary court or high court or Supreme Court, whatever. But at least you must know what you are buying from this lawyer, or what are you getting from the Attorney General's office, which will help you to your case through. Because some these private people or private companies, they are very ruthless. They have got a lot of money, they are willing a lot of power. Don't forget. So they can make sure that you don't have a chance of winning a case. And he can draw more water than, I mean, in this case, of course, he can draw more water than what is available in that river or that source. And for you, you think as an engineer, maybe you should not have that so much water, because there are also other stakeholders who need water, not only him. But he can say, no, I need this amount. If you say justify, say, no, I'm paying for it. It's not a question of paying for it. It's not a question of money here. It's a question of equity. Not equal amount, but equity. Everybody must get a certain amount. Equity, meaning that you must get a certain amount. And if there's not much water, then it means the water must be shared with the equity in the head, that, okay, you have this type of demand, but for this particular reason, for this particular time, you don't need, you cannot afford, or the government cannot, or the ministry cannot give you so much water, cubic meters per second, for example, because the other other stakeholders, other people are demanding for the same water from the same source. So there's no way I can give you so much. So you try to justify that, yes, you need this amount of water, but if you put the priority, and I'm sure each country, whether it is Angola, South Africa, Namibia, Zambia, for that matter, you have priority in terms of the water resources distribution in the country. Who is the priority number one? In many countries, the human being. Yeah. In some countries, actually, is the environment. It comes first. Now the question is, the environment. Someone must say something about the environment, because it's a silent user, silent stakeholder. Yes, but someone must say something about maybe the Minister of Environment. But usually in many countries, the priority use of water, they are even in the constitution. Usually it is the human being, human consumption, or human demand for that water. Then maybe environmental flow requirements come second. And maybe the next could be animal or livestock and food production and whatever. They come under that. So it depends on each country. Just read. You can read your constitution or the water law. What does it say? And each country, I know, we have national water policy, or maybe national water and sanitation policy. They are combined in some cases, but anyway, we have a policy. If they are combining, well and good, because they are connected anyway. So you have water and sanitation policy. Each country has got. I think in Namibia is 2008. I'm not sure, but we have a water policy. I think it was revised in between, but anyway, it doesn't matter. There is a water policy. And then you go to the water law, for example, or the act, which takes care of, now gives you what they call enforceable rights. The policy cannot give you enforceable rights, but the law gives you enforceable rights. So for Namibia, for example, before the new law, which was enacted in 2013, we had the Act number 54 of 1956. So that Water Act, that time, is the one which gave you the enforceable rights in terms of water resources in the country. Yeah. But anyway, this was revised 2004, and then it was revised again. Actually, the 2004 law was not, it was never applied. It was never applied because before it was applied, it was revised. Then the Act number 20, which came in 2013, which has got a lot of good things. Unfortunately, even today, I'm not sure now, but you have issues, or Namibia has got issues about the regulations. Those people in water, you people, Marcus and the group, tell me a good story. Maybe they have got the regulations now, because the law cannot function if it doesn't have the regulations. When you say the water is clean or is potable, they must have regulations, which means we must have the milligrams per liter of what? Fluoride, iron, manganese, whatever. That comes to regulation. It doesn't come in the law. Yeah. So that's how it works. So if you don't have the regulations, they're still being made, then legally speaking, in fact, we can use the law without the regulations. But if we don't go to court, if someone takes you to court, you will have to rely on the law which was enacted, which has got regulations. So in this case, you have to fall back to 1956 law, which is very unfortunate. Yeah, which has been amended several times, of course. But anyway, I'm trying to say is that the law is the one which gives you the so-called enforceable rights. And if you violate those rights, then obviously you get into hot soup, because there is consequences to that. Okay, there are consequences to that. Okay, people, questions, please. I know you're almost there for lunch. What's the time now? It's 12, what? 12:08.
Yes, Prof.
No questions so far, because we need
Just
to finish.
Just a small comment or a question.
Yeah.
Prof, in terms of the law,
yeah,
and laws, they govern organizations to some great extent. They are very vital. You, like, for example, you mentioned an example of NAM Water that's responsible for water supply, or in the nation. It's belong to the government. When appointing maybe somebody to be the CEO of an organization like NAM Water or so, which can be the same applied to NAM Power, are there some limits? Because what I've observed is that somebody can be the one who was maybe a custodian over an institution like maybe NAM Water, through the government having a big a key position in government, will later on take and become CEO of that institution like NAM Water. In terms of the law, are there no limitations, or because some of these things also in terms of governance can also have a challenge, can also have a different perception? If you were the one who's a custodian over that government parastatals, eventually you come and you take over. I feel in terms of the law and governance, there must be something missing somewhere. And another typical scenario, Prof, is what's going on currently. People are having issues because magistrates and prosecutors are getting trained in the same workshop. So magistrates are supposed to be neutral, and prosecutors are supposed to bring in issues. Now you are being trained in the same workshop. So those kind of issues, in terms of the law and governance, I think there must be something missing somewhere. Prof, help me understand in that scenario.
That's a tough one. Yeah, I know exactly what you are saying. Yeah, the question is, you see, the problem, one challenge which we get in many countries is that the appointing authorities, they want somebody somewhere there who will, I don't like to say be a yes man to me because I'm the boss. So I want someone who I can, let me say in brackets, to work with. So I'm the appointing authority. So that committee, which is given that job, like what they call search committee, search committee.
Yeah.
Search committee can be given written terms of TOR, which are published in all the newspaper, the Republica, the Namibia, the whatever. They are published there. But there are some extra TOR are not written there. Maybe the chair will be called in chamber and he will be told that, please don't appoint, or they say, do everything, but I want this guy to be the CEO.
That's a challenge.
So this one is not written anywhere. And it is the chair who is the appointing authority calls you. You are being appointed a member of that committee, but it also was called by you. So it can be quite interesting because your boss says, I want this one to be there. Now do everything that this guy will be appointed. Yes, please. Sorry.
I'm not sure who's talking. There's somebody, I don't know who it is. Somebody.
Maybe someone just raise your hand. I think there's a place to raise your hand.
I don't know if it was Mr. Tafila or Mr. Tafila, was it you?
Yeah, so but anyway, in any case, those things are very strange, and we can't do much about them here anyway, because theoretically the governance should have been there, that they have terms of reference, and then the committee which is sitting there should interview the people and get appoint the right person for that job. Let me give you that what I forget about it. Let's talk about the case of NAST and UNAM.
Yes, Prof.
I think you know the case.
Yeah.
So the question is, the call was there in the newspapers, the qualifications were there, given in black and white, they were written. And one of the conditions was that this person must be a professor, if you remember what I'm talking about. Yeah. But anyway, the committee sat and they made a decision. They gave the offer to someone who was not. Okay. So these are the issues. Maybe someone on top had given them extra TER, the terms of reference. And then they said, no, do everything, but my daughter or my son must be there. And then what do you do? So anyway, that is not good governance. In any case, I don't like to talk about the water and whatever, but the question remains. And there's no way you can, there's not much you can do about it, because this is a question of us being the appointing authority, and you have got your own ideas, what you want the country to run like, and. So I'm trying to say it's a difficult situation, but that's what we call is not good governance. Good governance, it means that we should have a situation where this person, whoever is being appointed, is really according to the terms of reference which were given in the advertisement.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, but let's go ahead a little bit, because at least by 1/2 we have to stop, because you people must do something else. I think the last slide are talking about what is it? Lack of integrity or corruption, for that matter. And this is in many places. I'm very happy that you got those. I don't know who gave that course, short course on corruption issues. You remember? But even if you don't remember, I just have to wrap up this corruption in water and sanitation. Corruption flourishes, actually becomes big when there is a monopoly on something, and discretion. When there's a monopoly, there's only one company which is dealing with water, for example, in Namibia. There's no competition. So corruption can actually flourish. Okay? Discretion meaning that there is so much powers on the person who is wielding the powers at that particular point that he can do almost everything or anything. So usually when you go to monopoly and discretion, so it's a ground for good corruption to actually grow there. If there's no transparency, meaning like I'm talking about the terms of reference, there are terms of reference which are not written, but they're given by hand or word of mouth to this guy, not even written to this guy saying, I need my son to be there or my daughter must be there. So you are the chairperson who have been appointed by the appointing authority. You have no choice. This is part of corruption. If there's no transparency, obviously corruption can actually thrive. And when there is no accountability, so monopoly and discretion without transparency and no accountability. So at the end, there's nothing about who is to be accounted for. You can't be held accountable for whatever. So in that case, if there's no accountability, then corruption can easily flourish. Yeah, corruption can actually flourish when there is discretion, there is no transparency, and of course, there's no consequence if something happens. So this is quite possible. Enabling environment is where you have people who are marginalized and people who are vulnerable situations often lack the capacity or the capability and the opportunity to hold actors accountable. Do you think the poor people can hold the minister or directors accountable for certain things which is not happening in their place? It's not possible. They're so marginalized. They are so poor. Their conditions are palatable. So they're just surrounded by the people who they're supposed to be actors. Enforceability mechanisms are mostly used by individuals who are already aware of such mechanisms and who can afford the costs and the time spent using them. Meaning, those people who are wielding a lot of power, wielding a lot of money, these are the people who can go to courts. They can, They can have people like Caesar Namanje and the others, good lawyers, to talk for them. And they're just having their coffee at the Avani or at the Hilton there. So this is a thing. This is one of the biggest problems we have, that the people the individuals who are already facilitated, they have everything. Only the poor will suffer even more. So we need to build a bridge so that the accountability and enforcement mechanism are accessible to all, including the people who are down there. So that's why we're saying by all. Even the poor people should have whatever. Judicial and the quasi-judicial. Judicial and the quasi-judicial bodies must allow relevant cases to be brought before them by individuals or their representative, meaning they can go through the normal court of laws, but also they can go to the traditional. In Namibia, for example, it's a good example. The chiefs are recognized as a legal system before you go to the primary. Is it called primary or stage one? I don't know, court. So the courts, the chiefs and sub-chiefs, they form part of the legal system, almost quasi-judicial. So they should allow people to come there because then they can speak the same language, vernacular, they have the same principles. They know when you want to get married, what happens. When you are bereaved, what happens in the house or in the system. So all these things. It's often easier for rights holders. The people who got the rights, they got the holders, they are holding the rights for water, for example, or whatever, to voice their concerns, hold actors accountable and collective. So this is normal. When you are poor, you are just poor, you don't get much. So it says the marginalized people or the people who are in vulnerable situations often lack the capacity, opportunity to hold actors accountable. Okay, we must bridge. Okay, this is the same. Sorry. Key functions, corrective function, addressing individual, collective grievances, and sanctions for wrongdoing. So there's a corrective function which can happen in real life. Preventive function, clarifying aspects of policy and service delivery as good practice. So challenges, no clear accountability framework based on human rights to provide guidance and standards. Yeah, these are the challenges. Presence of informal service providers that are not regulated and operate without a license. So there are people like that. Even here we have people who are very much in the informal area, and they let me say they act or they perform at the edge of the law. Not really breaking the law, but not strictly on the law. So they could empty your septic tank. You don't know where they deposit the final product. They could even go to the sea next to my house. And so long as they can go to an isolated beach, they can actually empty the septic there, because it takes them maybe 5 minutes, they're done, they're gone. And it's very difficult for the city enforcers to check and have evidence, because by the time the enforcers come, the septic is already disposed into the sea and it's been dispersed. So obviously it's very difficult to have evidence anymore. Imbalance of power that has at times affected the exercise of human rights to water and sanitation. Yes, there is always imbalance because the people who have got money, they will always get the right thing. See, we again, the so-called Stockholm International Water Institute. Yeah, the SIWI. They say integrity as the adherence water actors and institutions to, to water governance principles, transparency, participation, based on core values of honesty, equity, and professionalism. There was a time, long time ago, there was a joke, a serious joke, by the way, in a country where they say, oh yeah, in this country is corruption. The other guy takes, yes, we have corruption, but we are not like in Nigeria. You see? So if it's like you are saying, my corruption is small compared to Nigeria. I hope they are not offending anybody from Nigeria here. But this was a joke. And someone who was listening to this talk said, look, corruption is corruption. It doesn't matter how small it is. If you are stealing, what they call this, the tithers from the church, these are just coins usually. If you are stealing those coins there, you are just the same. You are committing the same sin as the guy who is stealing billions from our coffers in the government by cheating this or tenders or whatever it is. So you cannot tell me that because you stole only 10 cents or I don't know, 2 Namibian dollars or 3. It's very small. Yeah, true, it's very small. Maybe you can buy only a button with that money, or you can buy something very small, yes. But you are just a thief. You are just the same as the guy who stole millions from the government. You are just a thief. So integrity starts from there. So we have to tell our children from at that age. They're telling me a lie that the school headmaster or principal, I don't know what, told him or her to come home that you need 5 or 10 rands for student, student identity, so that can take a photo in the school, right? But the teacher said he wants only 10 cents. Now you come and tell me he said 2 or 20 cents or whatever. So if we start to lie at that point, you can say, what's the problem? You shanty around. It's only 10, 20 Namibian dollars. What is it? So if we start from there, my friend, when he becomes a big guy in the office, you will not see a problem stealing a few millions from the government. So these are the things we need to, that integrity should start at a lower level. So integrity requires that the state powers and the resources are used ethically and honestly in this context. for sustainable and equitable water and sanitation services. So we're talking about mainly water and sanitation here. We're talking about something else. But still it starts from that side, that you should be someone even at a lower, at a tender age, you're already behaving ethically and you are honest already. But then we can hope when you grow up as an elder, you will still have, you are holding this into a body that I don't need to be unethical or dishonest. Yeah. And the pillars of integrity says, namely, transparency, of course, I said it too many times, maybe, accountability, participation, and anti-corruption. This one I said too many times already. So it says around the world, corruption and lack of integrity has contributed to the failure of delivery of services, notably to the most vulnerable. That's the question. The people got money, they can buy water, they can buy this, they can buy their services, they can even buy drinking water, bottled water. They can take a shower with the bottled water because they have got money. Yeah, but the poor guy cannot buy that drinking water, even to drink. So what do we expect? He will miss the services. Reinforced exacerbated inequalities in access to water and sanitation. Divert resources from where they are most needed and reduce the quality, availability, and sustainability of services. So you can see this is the point which we get. We have this problem because of that. Yeah. So he said, just build trust to reduce specific integrity risks to the organization related to and accounting, human resources, operation and maintenance. Community service organization, user associations, communities should get to the roots of recurring water system problems, work out mutual accountability processes, and strengthen project management. So these are the things which we need to deal with. And I don't like to go to too many details here. We are talking about, again, this accountability and the human rights, about balancing the power and to protect most of the marginalized and the people who are living in most vulnerable conditions. Basically, the poor, they are uneducated, they are uninformed. Okay, principle for accountability establishes the relationship between people as rights holders and those who exercise power and influence. Yeah, the exercise of former rights through exercise of state, like powers, decisive and asymmetric power that has potential impact on the people. It's very asymmetric because the people who have got money, they have so much power. The people don't have money, they don't have power. So it's a very asymmetric way of living. And in that case, of course, you miss a lot of services simply because you don't have power. You're not wielding any powers. So it's a problem. Now, what do we do about it? Yeah, we should do corrective function, addressing individual or collective grievances, sanctions for wrongdoing. Meaning, coming back to the principle of the law, you remember? I said if there's a violation of someone's rights or whatever, then there must be a way, there will be remedy to this violation. There must be consequences. And again, if there's people are stealing money, there must be consequences to this breaking the law or doing our wrongdoing. Preventing function, clarifying aspects of policy, services, and whatever, and apply principle accountability effectively. The OHCR, the so-called Office of Human Rights Commission, the Commission for Human Rights, and the Center for Economic and Social Rights. So this is something which need to be done. Who is accountable? Who can be hold actors accountable, and for what? Here I just put something, false arrest. There's something called false arrest. Me and you, most of us, we don't have power to arrest anybody. unless you are given these powers by a police officer or man of peace. So they can be called something called false arrest. So don't take things into our hands. Sometimes you want to arrest somebody on the street because you think he's breaking the law. You can report him or her that the lights were red and this guy was pushing across they call it shooting the red lights. Yeah, that one you can report. You can just take nowadays very easy with your phone. You can take the photo of the car registration number and the time and the red light that this guy went through. Yeah, that one you can do. But to arrest him, I mean to block him not to go, this is called in law false arrest. You cannot arrest because you don't have the powers. Well, unless if this guy has got is going to kill somebody maybe by crossing the road and whatever. But anyway, be careful of that because you don't have powers to arrest anybody because nobody has given you, has vested any powers on you, or he has got powers which are vested on him, and then as a result, he gives what they call power of attorney to you. That will be difficult. So accountability calls for actors to have well-defined roles, responsibilities, as well as performance standards. There must be some standards. Actors referred to here are those in a position of authority with the ability to either positively or negatively influence the realization of human rights to water and sanitation through their actions, inactions, or decisions. The meaningful application of this principle involves clearly defining who is accountable, who can hold actors accountable, and what actors must be accountable for. So we have to be careful when we're talking about accountability. And the principle of integrity is there, that violation of integrity, fraud, and corruption result in reduced quality, affordability, availability of water and sanitation services. So obviously, you are denying these services of water and sanitation to the vulnerable people, the people who are living in very vulnerable situations. The rich people, you might affect them, but they can pay for their services anyway, and they will survive. So there's urgent need to proactively and systematically identify, precisely, comprehensively measure, and effectively mitigate corruption risks in urban water and sanitation service provisions. As I said, in terms of corruption, water and sanitation is a very specialized area or sector for that matter. As such, the equipment is very expensive and very specialized. And many times you have maybe one single, let me call it a single provider around. So it's very prone to corruption simply because you can't go anywhere else. What this company is selling you water equipment in window, week or book. Oh, now we have got a new member. Okay, so we have to be careful of that because so it must be systematically identify, precisely, comprehensively measure, and effectively mitigate corruption risks in urban water and sanitation service provision. So obviously, as I said, these are special services, and we need to put them in the right order. Mostly happens through public procurement or government contracting, because big projects, whether it is procurement for big machinery or services, is government or government contracting. Building roads, building water supply, building Nekatal Dam for that matter, building the oil dump down there in Wallis Bay and. What about the extension of the port? These are the big things we're talking about. That's where corruption can come, because it's a lot of money. We're talking about project of between 3 and 5 billion Namibia dollars or rands, that matter. So these are big projects, and most of the water projects, like what they call this desalination project, you're talking between 3 and 4 billion Namibian dollars. So obviously, even if this guy gets like 1%, not 10%. 1% of that is a lot of money. Yeah, it's a lot of money, because if it's 10%, we're talking about if it's between 3 and 5, let's say 4 on the average, 4 billion. So it's 0.4 of a billion into someone's pocket. I think you remember the case of, there's no classmate here is coming from anybody coming from Lesotho, no, but at least you have read this thing of the so-called Lesotho Highland project, which was a long time ago. So the contractor and the consultant from Germany, they colluded with some officials of the government of Lesotho. A lot of money went to their pockets, but so much money that you can't hide. So anyway, some people went to jail and whatever. But anyway, there was a lot of money, and this is government money. So money which was supposed to be given to, I mean, in a way to help Lesotho, because the source is in Lesotho. So the guys are the owners of the properties or the infrastructure in Lesotho, the small dams and whatever. So anyway, that's the situation. So it's basically in public procurement or government contracting. The aim of institutionalized corruption is to steer contract to the favored bidder without the detection. So this is some type of corruption anyway also. That it's like what they call negotiation fees, but it still is corruption. So some governments, sometimes there are this situation that they say, oh, this is just negotiation fees. So it depends who gives the higher negotiation fees, then they can get a job. So this is still corruption, and World Bank is very stern on that. You cannot get money from World Bank if they can find a loop, they can find the leak that you actually did this under corruption things. So public procurement requires at least 2 violations: principles of fair distribution and public resources, meaning avoiding competition by, for example, using unjustified sole sourcing or direct contract awards. This is something which happens in many governments. They say, well, you know, like in water and sanitation, there are a lot of equipment which are only one company is available, like in Namibia or any other country. For example, aqua services. In many things we need for the laboratory, you will need to go to aqua services. Maybe there are more companies now. So in that case, you have to write a letter. You have to write a letter to the procurement system that this is a single source. It's a sole source of this equipment or whatever it is, and it's the only person who can actually procure this thing. So what can we do? So in that case, it's favor that guy, and of course, get a contract and end. Favoring a particular bidder by, for instance, tailoring specifications and sharing inside information. This is happens sometimes, that some people within the ministry or from that same directorate, they leak the information to the bidder, some preferred bidders. That, my friend, this one is coming, and that is what we're asking. Please respond to this within 3 days, and don't put your price above this one because your colleague, your competitor is already putting this amount. So things like that. So this type of corruption focuses attention on restricted access to and unfair competition of public resources. So this is part of the corruption issues, and we need to deal with it. Anyway, this is still corruption. I think our time is almost over. Yeah, sorry. And you can just read this on your own, because so long as you had a small short course on this corruption and anti-corruption issues, I think you can read and understand what I'm talking about. In fact, this organization to economic cooperation and development, it's a European, or 2007, was saying they may result in not building to the specification, concealing substandard work, or the failure to complete works, or in the management of the services, or a OECD 2007. So because of under invoicing and because there is corruption over that, there's overbilling all the time, they say we shall do it for this amount of money, but they carry on coming with the new certificates, work certificates, saying, well, there was price change, the tariffs have changed, the cement has gone up because now Ohorongo and Cheetah Cement, they are owned by Chinese anyway. So the same company, the same Chinese are own the two. So they can set the prices of cement. So in that case, what will happen? You have no choice unless you import the cement from South Africa or from Angola. So you can see what can happen there. Hello, someone raised his hand.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon again, Prof.
Fine, how are you? We want to close very soon.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, thank you for the presentation, for the good presentation. Now, I have two talking points. The first one is just a reflection on corruption. Then the second one will be a question. So for the first one, I want to just reflect on the joke that you pointed out earlier on, where someone from Nigeria may say they are experiencing big kind of corruption, and another maybe from another country may say for them it is a small kind of corruption. Yeah, so I appreciate the fact that we have to have zero tolerance to corruption. But while looking at trying to get to zero tolerance to corruption, I've observed that not so many nations are able to get there. So I would still be leaning on what the joke says. Yeah, so it is better to have small corruption than big corruption. Now, let me just give one example here. In Zambia, where I come from, in the previous regime, there was so much corruption, a great deal of corruption. So what the new government has done, they have decentralized the systems. They are sending about 28 million, okay, compared to Zambian kwacha, it could be 29 or 28 million Namibian dollars to the constituencies. There are about 150 constituencies. Yeah, so in that way, some constituencies who have money for them to sink a borehole. But previously, the big corruption was from the headquarters itself, Lusaka. So monies could not get down to the small constituencies. If someone stole it from the headquarters, meaning a lot was lost, that was big corruption. But with the decentralization process, we may just expect small corruption. For example, some constituencies may misuse the money, whilst others may use the money in the right way. It won't be at a bigger scale, but there will still be some bits of corruption. Yeah, so that was my observation on your joke. Then the second thing I want to raise is today we had we had confusion about what time the seminar was supposed to start. So for some of us, we tuned in at 9. Then again, there was nothing. So it was taken to 10 hours. So I'd like to know whether it will be, what time the seminar will be starting tomorrow. Thank you, Prof.
Okay, thank you from Zambia. I think that's a good idea. Yeah, you're right.
Thank you.
Your new government is trying to do a lot about this corruption. I was very happy. I was driving through Zambia in December for 5 days. I was happy that everywhere we stopped, they had nice places where you can actually pay the crossing from one district to another district. Everything is a big gate. There's a automatic machine where you have to pay 20 kwacha and you do it and you're out. You go to the next district. When you cross again, you pay. So it was quite interesting how things happened. And if I remember, my previous experience was not that good, really. It was like, anyway, you can be stopped by police and they just ask, did you pay this? Did you pay? Okay, I need 20 kwacha or 30 kwacha, whatever it was. So anyway, I think the one now is there. I think the new government is really doing very well. I think happy to have that. I think with time, if the government is serious, it will reduce from the small to almost nothing, no corruption. But corruption is there. Even people are corrupt even at the Vatican. Don't worry. Yeah, some small corruption will be there, unfortunately. So maybe it's just human. But let's try not to encourage it to have any corruption, whether it's as big as Nigeria, what is having Nigeria, or small. But let's try our best. The government should try its best to reduce it. It can't be zero maybe, but let's reduce it. And the people should see the consequence. Like in China, they catch you, they shoot you the next day. Yeah, they have no time to hang you, they will shoot you. So just make sure that you are not doing any corrupt practices. So I think that will how it will help the poor people also to get the services, especially water and sanitation. Forget about other services. This is our issue. We are water people. We're dealing with water. We would like them to get their situation correct, to get the services properly as they are supposed to get. It's by law. Okay, so that is okay. I think it's very good. Thank you very much. At least you have thought that corruption, no matter how small it is, let's remove it as much as we can. Okay, the other issue we're talking about tomorrow, I think Dr. Mabuku will be there at the end. We're almost there. We have 3 slides to go. And I hope she will be there. I think it will be 9 or it will be 10. It's up to her. Either it is I'll be there or Professor Ndugumaro will be there. There's no problem. And I think that even if at the end Dr. Mabuku is not there, I think you should send a general email to everybody, announcement to know that it will be there at what time.
I'll call her in to come in, Prof. Once we are done, I will call her to come and talk.
Oh, okay, then it's okay, because we have only 2 slides to go. And actually, I didn't like to go through all these last slides one by one, because they are basically talking about the same story. They are talking about corruption, how corruption is not only appointment. Even this one, they say inflated cost of services facilitates nepotism. For example, you are hiring people who are your brothers or your relatives, nepotism, and hiring technical staff. So it is corruption. We must conserve their posts in order to continue asking for bribes from the same group of people, which are this in India. The power relation allow a particular group of people to gain and maintain control of services while continuing to undermine integrity. So people are just consuming money and they don't see a problem with it, so long as they're getting richer and richer. And they just compare themselves with Nigeria, say, yes, we are corrupt, but not like Nigeria. No, they don't like even small corruption. Just take it out. And sometimes you go to this, what they call ghost workers, ghost employees. They're in the payroll, but they're not there. There's nobody there in the payroll. Now, because it's just soft, you put there Mashauri 1, Mashauri 2. The computer cannot say this is Mashauri who signed for Mashauri 1 and Mashauri 2. It's the same person. They sign, after all, what do they sign? It's just electronic. They get the same Mashauri 1 and Mashauri 2 is the same person. Okay, you get the salary sharing with the chief accountant of the ministry or of an organization. So these are the ghost workers. People are not even working there. Or they are working, but they're getting 2 or 3 salary because they are different people. They are supposed to be different people. So these are the issues. So this money is the money which could have been used to make better services, water and sanitation for the people. But now, because there are a lot of Mashauri 1, 2, 3, 4 who are not even working there, but they are getting nice salaries. So anyway, this ghost, the so-called ghost workers or employees, may be present. This is a practice used to pay back favors between actors. So the actors, the one on top, sorry, meaning maybe the CEO, the general manager, whatever it is. So he will get his share. Even when they inflate these tenders, he will get his share anyway. So that's the thing. So this is very unfortunate. This practice leads to inadequate recruitment of staff, which impacts on the operations. Sorry. Maybe you need a cup of coffee. So, it says additionally, the inflated cost of the maintenance of services relating to chemicals, vehicles, and equipment are also present through water supply and sanitation. So it's not only water supply and sanitation, almost everywhere. I think there was a case study, a case which occurred in my own country a few weeks ago, was mentioned in the papers. So again, we're talking about investigative journalism. So someone took this case very nicely, and he checked it out, and he found that there was supposed to be a cargo plane to be bought for Tanzania government at 37 million US, yeah, something like that. And but the final, the final amount, sorry, was almost twice that amount. But it was only reported, or only knew it through this investigative journalism. And the government had to wake up to know that, oh, there's something like that. Because these things are just soft copies and soft whatever. So an invoice is coming, it's soft. There's no filing of anything, you just hold it in a server. The amount is paid, it's also soft. And then the guys at the top, they are sharing this loot. And things are moving, no problem. Guys are enjoying themselves. So we really have issues. But because you had a short course on this integrity issue of corruption, I think I'll leave it there. It says take the forms of different effects such as unaccounted for water. There are a lot of places where you see unaccounted for water is percentage, maybe in most of the developing countries over 25% of the water throughput of water. Unofficial usage of tankers, low reporting of faults, unexpected zonal variations, ignored complaints. The people are complaining about water in certain area. You don't report it in your report because it will be seen like you are not doing very well in your duty. So don't report it. So each of these outcomes of low-level corruption typically results from bribes paid by the client, private household, or company to low-level bureaucrats of the utility company. So all these things happen because people want to to get through, and they falsify things like sewer repair work, falsification of water bills, and ignoring illegal service connections. So it's like the meter reader goes to a house, he reads the meter, he comes to the office, he's entering the data, he reads the same data which he had taken last month, it's the same number he's putting today, simply because the meter has stopped. But he doesn't care, it's not his problem. He's employed as a meter reader. He reads the meter. It doesn't matter, he has no duty to say, but sir, to the supervisor, that the number which I read last week, or last month, for that house, particular house, it's the same. Then it raises a flag. When they enter in the data, they say this guy who is sitting in the office, who is capturing the data or entering the data into the computer. Now the software should be able to pick or raise a flag that this number is the same, which means consumption is zero. There are two things. Either the owner is dead, it's not there anymore, there's no consumption, or the meter is erroneous, it's not reading, they stopped working, or someone has made a bypass of water. All the water is bypassing the meter, goes into the house. So those are the issues of the guy who is supervising the meter reader in the office to take care of. But because he knows what is the situation, that maybe they have bypassed the meter and he doesn't like to report. So he just feed the information into the computer. He overrides the computer program, maybe it calculates 0 bill, but it prints a bill. And this bill is sent to this Mashauri, who is the owner of the house. And then the owner of the house sees that the bill actually he's not spent any water. So it's 0. He has nothing to pay. So he just keeps quiet. He waits for the next time. The meter reader will come and read again, basically 0 consumption, and life goes on. So nobody wakes up to say, no, how is it possible that for 3 months, 4 months, this house is reading 0? Is there anybody there? Now, this is the duty of the supervisor or whatever is called foreman, whatever, to go and check physically the houses or the consumption which does not make sense. So you see the meter is stopped, and when was the last time this meter was calibrated, for example? So all these things must be taken care of and make sure that we have the right thing to tell the story. And this is actually corruption if you are not reporting the right things, because it doesn't make sense. Okay, thank you very much. I think we are done. But if you have any question, please, now it's almost 2. Here, it means in Namibia, it's 1. You are 1 hour behind us. So it's almost 2 according to my watch. I think my stomach needs some vitamin also. So
Thank
all
you,
the best.
Prof.
You can
I'll be calling Dr. Mabuku now.
Okay, please.
Yes, if others are asking questions, they may go ahead while I'm getting Dr. Mabuku to come here.
Yeah, and you can see my email there. If someone has got a question, you want to send an email to me, you can send an email to me. It's just damas.mashauri@gmail.com. The first slide. And this recording, you will get it. I don't know when. So when you get it, you will see there's an email there. You can send me an email if you have an issue. As I said at the beginning, it is really loaded. And we have spent not 2 hours, but it's actually 3 hours.
Okay. Prof.
Yeah, just come. Yeah, it is available.
Prof.
Yes, please.
You are done.
We are done. Unfortunately, we have a short the time.
Okay. No, I understand. So tomorrow we are starting at what time? 9?
Now, I'm not sure if the boss said what. What did he say, Professor Esther? Did he say 9
yes,
or 10?
because on Wednesday she had told us that you are taking 2 days.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Thursday and Friday. So probably you just give her a call and then let me know.
Yeah. Okay,
but if you are coming back, then at 9 o'clock would be ideal so that you finish early.
Yeah, okay. I think for me 9 is okay.
Okay. No, thank you very much, Prof. I'm sorry that I couldn't even attend. I normally attend in and out, but today our workshop was a bit tight. So thank you very much for coming through for us. And we are looking forward for tomorrow's session as well.
Okay. Thank you very much. Keep it up. And any question they can send on the email. My email is on top of that slide, first slide. And yeah, see you tomorrow, 9. Let's put at 9.
Please share the slides with me as well so that I can share to everyone.
Okay, good.
All right.
So I'll leave.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Bye.
We'll share the recording anyway, is it?
Stop it here. You actually have rights. Stop.
Okay, I'll share the slides anyway. Okay, bye. I leave now.